You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
We get to talk about something fun today, watching movies,
Yes.
but watching movies with a purpose. I'm excited about that. I'll get more into it in just a little bit. Sorry, I'm a little excited about talking about movies. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for your support of The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at csl.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today, the Reverend Dr. David Lewis, Assistant Professor of Exegetical Theology at Concordia Seminary, and one of the brains behind the Faith and Film Festival, a whole team that's working on the Faith and Film Festival. And we got to be a part of it last year. I got to go on location and be a part of the Faith and Film Festival, and excited that it is still pressing on this year. Dr. Lewis, thanks so much for joining us on the Coffee Hour today.
It's very good to be here. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk about this event.
So share with us a story of what you enjoyed about last year's Faith and Film Festival.
Everything was wonderful. It was sort of, for me, a dream come true that at the seminary we would have this event where people from all over the place, and it really was people from all over the United States, coming to watch film and talk about the theology presented in the film and the themes in the film. I would say one of the best things last year was seeing former students come back to participate in this event. Meeting a bunch of new faces too, but to see those former students who I recall watching movies with, talking about movies, and to see that they're now in their ministries and that this has remained an important thing for them, important enough that they would come back and participate in this event. And I see at least one of them is now going to be working as a presenter this year as well. And so that was probably one of my favorite things, but it's hard to pick because I thought last year's event was just a completely wonderful event. It brightened up the dark days of January.
That is for sure. Why bring a film festival to the seminary campus?
Well, I think if you'd see that, you'll see this on the site on Concordia Theology. Film is the vernacular in which many Americans understand the world. Many Americans who don't go to church and don't pick up scriptures, nevertheless, they watch movies, and therefore movies are they play an important role in shaping how Americans understand reality. And so I think it's important for church workers, for pastors, deaconesses, teachers, to at least know that movies are playing this role. And I would say it then also behooves us to take another step and to engage, maybe not every movie, but at least some of the films that are out there, especially those that people are actually watching. And I say every movie has a message. That message could be good or bad, but movies, in a sense, are preaching. They're proclaiming some truth about some view about reality. And I think the church needs to both be ready to respond to these other proclamations that are out there, but also to understand that very often what films are saying are true. And they may speak to things that we as a church have not always fully addressed, and it could be a wake-up call. We ought to talk about these things. And then, one of my favorite things to do with films is to see how are they actually using the Christian story. Do they have any Christ figures? And you find that there are tons of them. I remember watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and my daughter Cordy immediately recognized Groot as a Christ figure. And just the fact that this film is borrowing from our story to tell its story reminds us how powerful our story is, and that it becomes a means by which we can actually engage our culture with the gospel of Jesus Christ if a film that they're watching actually is borrowed from our story. And you tell people, hey, Groot is a Christ figure. They say, what? And then the next thing you know, I find myself talking about the gospel with someone who may not have been willing to engage me if I just came up and said, let me tell you about Jesus. I don't know if, so you say Groot's a Christ figure. Now suddenly I'm telling somebody about Jesus.
Last year for the Faith and Film Festival, you had you viewed a number of films on campus and several discussions, conversations about the film And it was just a fantastic event. This year presents some challenges
Yes.
with the pandemic. So how is this year's festival going to be different?
Well, the big difference is this year's festival is going to be virtual. It is going to be online. And we had the choice of canceling the festival, and we decided not to because we want to keep the momentum going. And we just know there are people out there who, even if it's a virtual event, would want to get together and talk about film. People who love movies wanting to get together and talk about movies with other people who love movies. And but what this means is we're not going to be able to view the feature films together as we did last year. And so for those who register, we're going to be asking that they watch the feature-length films on their own and then come prepared to discuss these films with a group. But also what's new this year, a couple of things actually. We're going to be showing some short films and some short documentaries, and these will be viewed together online and then discussed. And also new this year, we've invited Pastor Bill Swirla and Ted, I think it's Giese. They have a podcast, Bill and Ted Go to the Movies, where Ted is the film lover and Pastor Swirla is the theologian who doesn't necessarily like films, but they get together to critique films with you, where you have the film lover and the theologian talking about the same film. We're going to hear from them. And also there's going to be a backstage interview with actor Paul Walter Hauser, who he's known for his breakthrough role as Richard Jewell in the Clint Eastwood directed film Richard Jewell. It turns out that Paul is a Lutheran. He is a Christian, and he's graciously agreed to be interviewed for the Faith and Film Festival so we can get his perspective on what it means to be a Hollywood actor and a Christian at the same time. My son and I know Paul from Cobra Kai Season 2, where he plays the role of Stingray. Cobra Kai, the revival of the Karate Kid series. And so these are a number of new things. And also, I have to mention there's going to be there's a short film contest, and so the Faith and Film Festival will conclude with the announcements of which films entered win that contest. And so, although we're virtual, there's some new things happening that are going to make this event, I think, as special as last year.
Well, I know I have a new podcast to listen to. Bill and Ted Watch Movies. That sounds like a really great podcast.
Yeah, the theologian meets the film lover.
That is fantastic. Can you share some of the movies and documentaries that are in the lineup for this year?
Yes. So some of the feature-length films that will be reviewed include Logan, which is the final film in the Wolverine series. A River Runs Through It, a classical film, I think, from the 80s. Eighth Grade, True Grit, the one directed by the Coen brothers, which I think is a fantastic movie. Hugo, Age Out, Stranger Than Fiction, and Annihilation. Let's see, also Captain Fantastic, There Will Be Blood, which is another interesting film. And then the Thursday night, there's going to be sort of a late night viewing of the movie The Witch. And so for those, if you recall the days when you were younger, maybe you still do this, where Friday night you go and hang out at the theater to watch some cult classic late night. We're going to have a late night viewing Thursday of The Witch. I think is a horror classic from 2015. Those are some of the major length films. And then some of the short films will include My Neighbor's Window, Late Afternoon, 10-Meter Tower, Waves, Heroin, and that's heroin, the drug. Then you have in parentheses E at the end, heroin and heroin, hero. So double entendre there. White Helmets, Dick Johnson is Dead. And then documentary shorts include St. Louis Superman, Heroin. Heroin is actually a documentary short. White Helmets, Period, End of Sentence. You can find all of these listed on the website. And the idea is for those who register, they get to pick what major length films they should watch beforehand, and then watch what short films and documentary shorts they will participate in. So it'll be like last year. Those who register will have a choice what to view and where to participate in the discussions.
So we're giving you plenty of time now that to start putting together the list to like gather the resources to view these feature length films at home. You can put in your request to the library now, so you can go pick up DVDs, right? So we're giving you the now. This is taking place in January, correct?
Yes. It begins at 12 o'clock on Thursday, January 28th, and then continues until Friday, January 29th at 9 p.m. And get this, the registration for this event is only $20, which I think is a great deal. And registration will be due by January 15th. And if you get on the site now, you'll see that it's not open for registration. The site will be open next week for those who want to participate. And so I invite everybody listening, please go to concordiatheology.org. You could just basically type in Faith and Film Festival and you'll find the link, and it'll list the schedule, the events, and then when the time comes, please register. Let's get together and talk about films, even in the midst of COVID and again the dark days of January.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to take the list and start putting together my my library request now. And see if I can get in a couple of these. It might take me a month to watch all of them.
Now, one thing to note is all of the major length films should be available on Netflix or some other streaming service. And so we tried to make it so you don't have to buy these films to watch them. If you're already subscribed to Netflix, you should be able to find most of the major length films.
Very good, very good. So coming up very soon, you can find the registration information on, is it concordiatheology.org? Is that right?
Yes. Basically, again, if you were to just type in Faith and Film Festival 2021, it'll take you straight to the link. I did that shortly before the interview just to make sure that was still true, and it is. And then there's a link to register, and again, the registration will be open starting next week.
Very good. We'll provide a link in the program notes for today's program as well to get you to the Faith and Film Festival page. Our guest today, the Reverend Dr. David Lewis, Assistant Professor of Exegetical Theology at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. Faith and Film Festival coming up at the end of January. Thanks so much, Dr. Lewis, for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you again for inviting me to come and talk about this event.
It's a lot of fun. You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.